When institutions crack and economies pull back, the reaction is panic. The modern world treats severe contraction as proof that a civilization is breaking down. But looking at these periods of friction as random disasters ignores the historical pattern. Periods of intense pressure are not necessarily a civilization dying. Early societies tracked these exact societal rhythms using the oldest pattern recognition system on record, astrology. This map illustrates how ancient observers organized the apparent chaos of human history into a structured, mathematical grid based on celestial observation. Within this framework, planetary orbits were not seen as physical forces determining human fate. Instead, they served as a symbolic language, a way to map long-term behavioral tendencies and macro-societal trends. Through this lens, systemic contraction is a mandatory immune response. It forces a society to consolidate its resources and maintain structural integrity over time. The specific planetary archetype ancient observers assigned to these periods of contraction is Saturn. In esoteric psychology, Saturn rules the domains of strict boundaries, hard discipline, time, and the absolute imposition of limits. The physical reality of the planet aligns with its symbolic meaning. These rings represent a definitive boundary that prevents indefinite, unsustainable expansion. Popular astrology often frames this energy with fear, painting it as a harbinger of bad luck or doom. In its original context, this archetype is entirely neutral. It acts as a builder of resilience. To understand when a civilization's core institutions will face a stress test, we can trace the geometric progression of Saturn's orbit around the astrological wheel. The stress test begins at the conjunction. This occurs when two planetary bodies converge at a single point on the celestial map. Symbolically, this marks the inception of a new institution, when fresh laws, societal rules, and foundational boundaries are first established. As the cycle advances, the two bodies separate until they reach a strict 90-degree angle. In astrological geometry, this is called the square. This precise angle maps to periods of acute societal friction. It represents the exact moment when those newly built institutions face their first significant real-world resistance. During this phase, early design flaws become obvious. Discipline has to be heavily enforced to keep the system running, and weak foundations begin to show visible cracks. This initial friction is an intentional audit. If an institution cannot survive the pressure of the square, it was never structurally sound enough to lead a civilization in the first place. The cycle then peaks at the opposition. The bodies sit in direct polarity across the circle, held in maximum tension. At a macro level, this translates to maximum institutional pressure. Social sentiment fractures into polarized camps, and the collective stress reaches its absolute limit. This manuscript shows the specific geometric peaks historical observers used to track these dynamics. For centuries, analysts monitored these angular relationships to anticipate periods of severe geopolitical tension. During an opposition, a society's boundaries are stretched so thin there is no middle ground left. The system is forced into a binary outcome. It must adapt or it will collapse. This climax acts as a definitive reality check. It demands that a society objectively prove the worth and durability of its structures. This pattern recognition system functions as a fractal. Just as a collective has a beginning, an individual's entry into the world establishes a specific geometric snapshot of these same planetary cycles. This angular pressure also applies to the individual timeline. Tracking Saturn's transit against a birth moment maps specific periods of internal tension and behavioral shifts. Saturn's demand for discipline forces severe internal shifts. It cuts away unproductive personal habits and demands strict accountability from the individual. A society is only as strong as its components. The collective resilience required to survive macro contraction is entirely dependent on the discipline cultivated by individuals during these personal stress tests. As the cycle completes its geometry, the intense pressure of the opposition finally releases and the structural audit ends. The purpose of Saturnian energy is never destruction for the sake of destruction. Its sole function is to eradicate what is too weak to endure. This map organizes the celestial hemisphere into a coherent system. Viewing history through a structured framework like this replaces fear-based fatalism with a grounded understanding of necessary rhythms. Once the pressure subsides, whatever remains has proven its structural integrity. The society and the individuals within it are fortified and prepared for the next age of expansion. Contraction acts as a forge. By testing structural integrity, it ensures the following age of expansion begins on a foundation capable of supporting it.